Hello, this is Randy, and welcome back to another edition of Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. This is the last edition for a while, and I'll talk about stake dances. But one of the things that was interesting about stake dances is the kids that came, they typically drove themselves. Very rarely would a parent bring them. I won't say that didn't happen. It just didn't happen all the time. The younger kids would get a ride with an older kid and come to the dance. That being said, we still had a lot of room in the parking lot because they'd come as groups. But we had to patrol the parking lots to make sure that the cars were safe, that the kids were safe. Sometimes kids would leave early and try and get in a little trouble in the parking lot. So we patrolled the parking lot. When these dances first started, it was so hard getting used to them because the Stake Young Men's president had been called as a mission president, and he was excused from this responsibility. He was still the Stake Young Men's president and worked with the oldest boys in the stake, worked with the varsity scouts, the boys that were 14 and 15. Anyway, this is far enough back that a bright flashlight was like mag light, one of those big 5D cell flashlights made out of rolled aluminum, and you could have an airplane run over it and it was still fine. I had one of those. I had a couple of men out in the parking lot. Typically, we'd invite the bishoprics, the young men's presidencies, and the young women's presidencies on a rotating basis. But the young men's presidencies and a couple of high counselors would be out in the parking lot, just patrolling it, make sure that everything was on the up and up. But one night, I was told that there was a fight out in the parking lot. I went out there, and they were trying to basically subdue one of the high counselors. These were the youth. I don't know what caused it or whatever, but I waded in with a flashlight. And by the way, the police came. These kids, I don't know what they had in their minds, but more than one got arrested that night. It wasn't pleasant. I don't know what got into that young man at the time, but I do know that he was going after one of my best friends who was doing nothing but trying to make things comfortable for everybody. He was the most low-key person. He couldn't make you feel uncomfortable if you tried. When I saw them attacking him, now it's hard to believe looking at me now, but back then, a long time ago, this is probably 35 years ago, I ran to his defense. I don't think those boys realized what was coming because there were several men that came, and we basically had all those boys down on the ground. The police showed up. They talked to him, and the boys that had caused the problem and were attacking this good brother, they were taken away in the back of the car. Their parents weren't happy about it, but their bishop knew about it. The stake presidency from our stake and the stake presidency from their stake were all aware of what happened and said, no, this needs to be treated seriously. We will press charges. I did. I didn't follow it after that, so I couldn't tell you what happened to the boys. I did have an interesting experience, though, when I was the priesthood up at girls' camp. I was the priesthood at our stake girls' camp for 7 years. That was kind of fun. There were some sweet ladies there. And basically, I was up all night, and I would sleep during the day, except on the days that I would take the girls, the oldest girls, on an overnight hike with another priesthood bearer and their leaders. But most of the time, I was just trying to keep the boyfriends from visiting the girlfriends. The girls' camp was no secret. Everybody knew where it was. But we had some boys that kept coming up. And the week that I was there, we had the same group of boys. I don't know where they got the gas, but gas is a lot cheaper then. They came up 2 or 3 nights in a row. And there was a real reason we had somebody like me patrolling the area. One night I had a man show up, and he drove past some of our girls that were sleeping in cabins, and he stopped his car and got out, and he threw up where the girls were going to have breakfast. And then he went to the bathroom, didn't do his pants up, and laid down on a picnic table and promptly fell asleep. Now, I don't know how long he would have slept if I hadn't have been there to wake him up and tell him to get lost. But he was so drunk, he wasn't going to be able to drive. So we had to call the police, and they took his car, took him. Getting back to the group of boys that came 3 times in 1 week. The third time, I'd warned them off twice. The first night, they were chasing around in the woods with some girls, their girlfriends. One of the girls got hurt. That made me angry. But then these guys came back a couple more nights. thinking that the rules didn't apply to them. Well, we had the deputies come. Now, the stake presidency didn't come up, but they definitely knew what was happening. We charged them, and they went and spent quite a while in the county jail and then the youth detention center. One of them was over 18, so he got treated like an adult. And to be honest with you, they ended up spending their summer in jail. That's not a fun way to spend summer. But I tell you what, they were much better behaved when they came out. They didn't hold it against me because they knew it wasn't my decision. I was the one that caught them. But the stake presidency was the one that decided we need to go to jail. They did. By the way, the one girl that got hurt, her leg got broken. If these guys hadn't come up and thought they could get away from me, nobody would have got hurt. I was not trying to chase them. I was just trying to catch up to them so I can say, hey, what are you doing? Let's get smarter here. But it was fun because the ladies took great care of me. I had my own little cabin every night as they were getting ready to go to bed, and they'd clean the kitchens. They would give me a paper bag full of freshly baked cookies. When they found out I loved peanut butter cookies, that's all I had for the rest of my time up there. I really enjoyed it. I got to know all the girls in the stake. I mean, it wasn't like I slept all day. I'd stay up until they were up, and then I'd sleep in the morning. And I was awake in the afternoon and evening, so I'd have lunch and dinner with them and watch them do crafts and things like that. It was fun. It was so different from what boys do at camp. I really enjoyed that opportunity. I think my last year doing that was my daughter's first year at camp. We had some bad water that year. Some Campylobacter got in the water system. My daughter was on a antibiotic the whole time she was at camp. She was the only one that didn't get sick in our whole ward. The rest of the girls went to the hospital. Some actually had to stay in the hospital for a day or two until they could get their symptoms under control. It was terrible. I never had the problem. I don't know if I had a different water source, but maybe just a different constitution. But anyway, it's my story of stake dances for the youth and the youth deciding that the rules didn't apply. That happens from time to time. What I have learned is that the rules are there for our own safety. I have had the chance of hanging around with people that I grew up with that thought the rules didn't apply to them. I watched their lives, and it wasn't necessarily a good thing where they ended up. I've seen a lot of people go through life and have to try and make up for the mistakes they've made. Some can't. I learned a long time ago that by studying accounting, that you don't make something right by correcting your error at the end. You've got to go back and correct the error where it begins and go from there. I'm glad I learned that because it helped me in my life see problems and realize where I was headed. Thank you again for joining me for this edition of Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. Please like and subscribe, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment or two. Have a great day. Thank you.